I'm Silver. It is Wednesday, June 24th. I just want to say a quick hello to any new viewers and an awesome welcome back to all my returning viewers. If you did tune in last time and decided to come back, I really do appreciate it. You can actually find me on Ravelry as Silverluna2112, at Silver's Treats on Instagram, and at Silver's Knitting on Twitter. I would love to tell you that I've been super busy over the past couple weeks, and that is why it caused me not to record last week, but that would be a lie. I'm going to tell you that right now. I was just being lazy and trying to concentrate on finishing as many things as I possibly could. Well, that in both my crafting side and playing a lot of Animal Crossing, but yeah, you only came by for updates on my crafting, right? So please just grab your drink of choice, your crafting, and away we go. As it is long after MTI has actually been out of work, it's kind of late at night, so I am not drinking coffee today. I'm actually going ahead and drinking a little bit of water. Let me just take a quick drink and we'll move on. Now, in this episode, I do have FOs, or finished objects. I do have WIPs, or works in progress, X's and O's, Radio GaGa, Silver's book pile, Silver in the case of the screen time, and the end of the road. So I'm just going to take another quick drink and I will move on to the next segment. All right, let's talk FOs, or my finished objects. As a quick note, I'm going to note that the yardage I had for each project when I finished it. So those that are counting as I go through this section, I do apologize ahead of time. I will be including all the yardage and the meterage that I got for each project with the project name at the bottom of each of the pictures so that you can see them if you would like to as well. And with that, let's get started. The first one that I did finish was I finished 9 different squares for my Scrappy Happy blanket take 2. These are 11 round blanket squares. All the colors and all the dyers that I used will actually be directly on my Ravelry page. I will end up counting all the yardage for the squares in this project in groups of like 12 squares or so. And then that way I will include those in Stash Dash and whatever and what have you. Just so you know, the next batch may not go up until sometime next month, whatever that'll be. Anyway, I am using a G hook, which is a 4.25 millimeter hook. Now, I did, however, manage to finish an entire FO in terms of my Scrappy Happy blanket. I did get 5,460.8 yards. This does include 3 new squares since the last time we talked. Again, these are the 11 round blanket squares that I like to create. In terms of this blanket, I have also gone ahead and included all the colors and the dyers I used and put that directly on my Ravelry page. And with this, I have also used a G hook, which is 4.25 millimeters. I absolutely love the way this blanket came out. As an aside and kind of a hint, you might want to tune into next month's along section. Just gonna put that out there. The next thing that I finished was what I called June 2020 DVD socks. This did net me a total of 268 yards even. The pattern I used on this one was the Toe Up Socks with a Difference by Wendy D. Johnson, and I used a color from Desert Vista on their Visa base called the Crystal Ball Frap. And for these socks, I did use the size US1, which is a 2.25 millimeter on both 9-inch circulars and also 2 16-inch circulars for the heels, toes, and cuffs. And the last thing that I did finish since the last time we talked was what I called our Bro. This did get me 310.6 yards for Stash Dash. And this pattern again was the Toe Up Socks The Difference by Wendy D. Johnson. And I did use West Yorkshire Spinner's Signature 4-ply in the color 0713. For these socks and for the recipient, I needed to use a size US 1.5, which is a 2.5 millimeter 9-inch circulars, or 2 16-inch circulars for the heels, toes, and cuffs. Now, with those new 3 projects, for Stash Dash, I do have a total of 12,569.1 yards, or this amounts to 11,493 meters. My God, you guys, I'm getting so super close to even getting a 15K. I'm okay with that. If I don't get my 20, I will get my 15 and I will be ecstatic. Either way, before I ramble on, I am going to go ahead and move on to the next segment. Let's talk whips or works in progress. I do have a couple that I've been working on. The first one is actually a new project. It's what I am calling Ripples on the Water. And this is the pattern Ripple Bralette by Jessie Maud Designs. I am using many and multiple different sock blank scraps that I've had. I have actually started with the Little Skein and the Big Wool watercolor sock in the Glen Ellen colorway. And all the rest of the yarns that I'm going to be using will be on my project page for it as well if you are interested. I am actually using a size US 2, which is a 2.75 millimeter for the bottom ribbing, which I'm actually currently working on right now. I'm about halfway through the ribbing already, and I just cast it on this morning, so yay for me. And then I will be switching over to a size US 4, which is a 3.5 millimeter for the rest of the bralette. And this is being housed directly in my pink flowers bag by the Fat Squirrel. The second thing that I have put a little bit of love in, well, okay, by a little I say quite a bit of love in since the last time we talked, it's what I called Blanky 2.0. Since the last time you saw it, I have completely changed the pattern again. I have decided that I wanted to use the Fuss Free Baby Blanket by Louise Tilbrook. Basically, you make a garter stitch rectangle square thing in the middle, and you kind of just do stockinette around in. You do stockinette for the rest of it, and you kind of work it in the round. So, my brain has pretty much wanted that and nothing else. For the most part. I am using, like I mentioned before, I'm using a bunch of Pat's Croy scraps. Each one will actually be directly on my project page. I think I've already put them all on there. I don't know for sure, and I might have to check that. Anyway, if not, it will be by the time I record next. I am using a size US 4 red lace Chigu 40-inch circulars for these, so I love it. The blanket itself is just barely big enough to fit in the circumference of it right now, with little room between it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's so that way when you're looking at the pictures, you won't be able to see how much progress I've made unless I kind of tilt it. And anyway, much explanation for not much, right? This is actually being housed directly in my Fireflies bag by Bags by Awesome Granny. All right, with that said, let's move on to the next segment. X's and O's. Yes, you guys, I have been busy. I've been working on 2 different cross-stitch projects. The first one you've seen before. It is the Butterfly Forest pattern by Dimensions. I have gotten quite a fair bit done of the background still. I'm trying to do as much background as I possibly can to get as many of the butterflies to show, because I don't know, I just want to keep going with the butterflies when I start, right? Oh yeah, and the second cross stitch that I started since the last time you talked is actually the You Had Me at Aloha pattern by Stitch Area. I will include her Etsy shop below as well as in the show notes. I did get a fair amount of her projects and I wanted to share them with you. This one is for a particular recipient that I won't mention in case they happen to listen to the segment. Anyway, in terms of other things that I have been working on, on Monday, I put up a total of 22 blog posts. What can I say? I have been inspired to write, mostly because I was really behind with what I called my FO parade for the year. And that includes a lot of the post for stash dash totals and all that as well. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next segment. Radio GaGa. In terms of regular music, I have been listening to both the 80s and 90s music channels on Comcast and Xfinity browser, whatever. I really do like listening to those two as I'm doing a lot of work, especially, like I mentioned in the last segment, I had a lot of posts to put up, so I needed some background music for that. Besides music, I have also listened to a bunch of podcasts, including And That's Why We Drink, Hot and Bothered, Harry Potter and the Sacred Text, Verified, Wine and Crime, My Favorite Murder, and Martinis and Murder. I have been mostly listening to other things, as I will let you know in the couple segments from now. Silver's book pile. I have finished a total of 7 books since the last time we talked. The first one was My Billionaire Master by Delilah Garner. You also have The Passionate One by Jeanette Lewis. We also have Playing Games by Liliana Rhodes. Proposition by Lucia Jordan. Also have Possession, a prologue by Nadia Lee. You do have a book called The Rancher Takes a Bride by Sylvia McDonald. McDaniel. Okay. And also I finished Twilight by Stephanie Meyer, and I am actually reading this along with the Hot and Bothered podcast. Which leads me to the next book that I started for this particular podcast was the New Moon book by Stephanie Meyer. I have also been reading A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness for the second time. I love this series. I was showing off the TV series to MTI last week sometime, and I realized I hadn't read this book in a while, so I thought it was time. And the last thing that I have been reading is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and this is along with the Harry Potter and the Sacred Text podcast. Wow, I've been reading a lot. In that vein, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next segment. Silver and the Case of the Screen Time. I have been watching quite a bit, y'all. A lot of it has been background noise, and I'm mostly just listening to other voices instead of my own in terms of what's going on in the world, but that's neither here nor there for right now anyway. I've been watching a bit of TV as well. I've been watching the Holzer Files, where they had a special where they kind of discussed the season so far and announced that in the fall they will actually be back, which I wasn't too sure based on the amount of time between their episodes or mini episodes. Also, for some reason, I got on a kick of watching the Quarantine Ghost Hunters crew. The Ghost Hunters crew doing a quarantine in their own museum kind of thing. I thought it was an interesting premise. After the first episode, I'm like, well, now I realize why I'm not a fan of bagel bites no more. You'll know who I am if you are and that's why we drink fan like me. Anyway, I've also been watching a celebrity watch party. I watched a show called Don't, which I actually thought was pretty funny. That reminds me I have to watch the episode tonight. At Stargate SG-1 as well. Let's see. I have been watching a few movies since the last time we talked as well. I watched Father of the Bride Part 2. I also watched Beauty and the Beast, the 2017 version, and Beauty and the Briefcase, which is something along those lines. Anyway, I have been watching a fair amount of podcasts as well, including the Geeky Girls Knit and Cross Stitch podcast, as well as the Knit Girls, Stitching the High Notes, and Unseen Strands. And like I mentioned before, I've been watching a lot of differing voices for the different, I guess, viewpoints of this whole movement. And the other thing that I have been watching a lot on YouTube is Siska Says. I've been actually watching her Supernatural React series and just kind of following along with each episode. And I am caught up with her, so that's great. Anyway, I'm going to say this right now. I do recommend watching and learning as much as you possibly can before making a snap judgment on anything, especially in today's society. But there is my soapbox for the day, and we're going to move on to the next segment. All right, we have come to the end of the road. I know this is going to be a quick episode, considering, but Anyway, I am pretty social. You can actually find me on our Ravelry board, which is Silver's Dreamland Podcast. I am Silverluna 2112 there on Ravelry. On Facebook, Silver's Dreamland can be found at www.facebook.com/Silver's Dreamland. On Instagram, I am Silver's Treats. On Twitter, I am at Silver's Knitting. Now, please note, I do tend to read through all messages as soon as I possibly can. If you don't hear back from me within 24 hours, please go ahead and feel free to email me directly at silverstreamland@gmail.com. And as always, everything that I do talk about can be found in the show notes at www.silverstreamlandpodcast.com. Or you could actually put a message down below in the comment box. If you haven't done so already, please feel free to subscribe and hit the bell down below. This way others can find me in my own little corner of YouTube. That, of course, and you'll be able to see any videos that I put up. Okay. For not a lot of progress, I have actually rambled for quite long enough. I know your time is valuable, so please feel free to join in any discussion, or you can start your own on the Silver's Dreamland Ravelry board. I don't bite, I promise. If you're feeling generous, please hit the like button below this video so that others can find my show as well. And subscribe if you haven't already. And please stay tuned for episode 92 next week. Until next time, happy crafting.